That was really weird. Very, very strange. Okay, I must have missed something. Whatever. Look, I might just keep it to myself. Long story short, I don't know what I don't know yet. That's the, I call it the thick and thin of it. And this is certainly going to be interesting. Okay, well, that happened. I really wonder, I wonder what it says. So I'll make a note and just send it along and keep on trucking. Alright, well, we'll just roll with it. Fuck it. I want to do tonight's reading. I need to fire off this log because, you know, things just broke again. They broke earlier. I don't know that I'm ready for this trip. And that's it. That's all I really got to report. Moving right along. Locking Up Our Own by James Foreman Jr. Locking Up Our Own from 2017 takes a look at the U.S. war on drugs in Washington, D.C., and its impact on Black Americans. It draws on significant drug and gun legislation from the 1970s through to the late 1990s, which shaped policing methods and influenced the targeting of crime in Black communities. Who should read this? People want to learn more about America's war on drugs. Those interested in the relationship between the police and Black Americans, and anyone who wants to know about crime and judiciary procedures in Washington, D.C. from 1970 to the 1990s. Who wrote the book? James Foreman Jr. is an author, professor of law at Yale Law School, and the co-founder of the Maya Angelou Public Charter School in Washington, D.C. He has written for the New York Times, The Atlantic, and many law periodicals. What's in it for me? Learn about the marginalization of Black people in the 1970s through the 1990s. The Black Lives Matter movement began on social media in 2013 when the public expressed their outrage over the acquittal of George Zimmerman for killing Black teenager Trayvon Martin. But reports of police brutality against Black Americans continue to feature heavily in media outlets. This kind of fight against racial inequality in the justice system reaches back to a time before Twitter and Instagram existed. Starting from the 1970s, the author takes us through the history of judicial decisions that have had a significant impact on the Black community in Washington, D.C. Specifically, we will learn how the introduction of and amendments to gun and drug laws assisted in the incarceration of Black men. By exploring the flaws and limitations of past actions, we hope to learn and, in the future, adopt methods that will end the disparity between the criminalization of white people and of black people. In these blinks, you'll learn when black people started joining the Washington, D.C. police force, about Operation Ceasefire, and what the worst thing to hit since slavery is. Washington, D.C.'s black community helped halt a proposal to ease marijuana laws. In 1975, Washington, D.C. had a black mayor and a city council primarily made up of black people. 70% of the citizens were black too. That same year, the city made a decision that would stigmatize young black males for decades to follow. During this period, proposals were made to soften marijuana-related legislation due to concerns about racial injustice. In 1975, 80% of those arrested for possession of marijuana were black. These arrests held a lifelong burden as they had to be reported on housing, schooling, and employment applications. Therefore, on March 18 of that year, David Clark, a member of the City Council, proposed the Marijuana Reform Act, which sought to lower the penalties for possession of marijuana to a fine and a citation. However, the black community, headed by fellow councilmember Doug Moore, opposed the proposal, arguing that easing penalties would make it easier for black people to succumb to crime and addiction. The opposition was successful, and on October 21st, 1975, the Reform Act was tabled. To help understand why the reform was opposed, we need to look at the heroin epidemic in the 1960s. In the early to mid-1960s, less than 3% of new prisoners at the Central Detention Facility in Washington were heroin addicts. Then came a huge spike in usage, and by June 1969, this figure had grown to 45%, the majority of addicts being young black men. There was a strong link between heroin addiction and crime. To be able to afford their drugs, addicts would resort to criminal means to make money. According to one study, heroin addicts in D.C. and 3 other U.S. cities committed an annual average of more than 300 crimes. The spike in criminal activity led to outrage across black communities, and black drug dealers were deemed to be betraying their race. Some even believed that black heroin addicts and their passive dependents benefited the white community. In May 1969, posters that likened heroin addiction to slavery appeared across D.C., printed by the anti-drug organization Black Men's Development Center. The gun control laws passed in 1975 had mixed consequences. While the City Council was discussing penalties for marijuana possession in 1975, gun violence was rising. In 1974, it was the #1 cause of death for males in Washington under the age of 40. This spike led to the City Council discussing tougher gun control measures. Councilman John Wilson suggested that the sale, purchase, and possession of all shotguns and handguns be banned, and that the maximum sentencing guidelines for people convicted of gun crimes be raised. Furthermore, he proposed that minimum sentencing times be introduced so that more offenders would go to jail. Wilson's proposals were supported by victims of gun-related crime and citizens who were angered by the fact that, at the time, 85% of those killed by guns were black. Fellow Councilman Moore, however, opposed Wilson's suggestions, claiming that guns were crucial for the black community to arm themselves against street criminals and racism-fueled violence. In 1976, the council passed stricter gun control laws, with everyone in favor except Moore. Though the new as those Wilson had proposed, they nonetheless banned further sales of guns and mandated the registration of existing ones. Many black citizens were in favor of the new laws, in part due to the perception that black-on-black street crime had become a greater threat to the community than racist violence. It can be argued that the stricter gun laws were a huge victory for civil rights. black policymakers passed legislation that aimed to protect the lives of black citizens. Unfortunately, however, the policy change wasn't as effective as many people had hoped. The new laws and penalties mostly punished poorly educated black men from low-income households, while still failing to protect the larger black community against gun violence. This was likely because of the overemphasis on punishment, rather than addressing the root causes of gun crimes, such as racial inequality in the provision of health care, education, and employment. Hiring more black police officers didn't necessarily curb police violence against black people. Throughout most of U.S. history, racism has prevented black people from being considered for positions of authority, especially in police departments. This meant that significant efforts were required to increase the number of black people on the police force. In the late 1940s, black civilians started to join the police force. However, segregation existed in patrol cars, and black officers didn't have equal career tracks. To apply for promotion, you needed to have good written test scores and be assigned a high suitability for promotion rating by your supervisors. But racism prevented black officers from receiving good suitability ratings, which made it near impossible to get a promotion. Two black officers, Bertell Jefferson and Tillman O'Brien, couldn't obtain a promotion due to their low suitability ratings. So, in 1958, they formed a covert class for black officers, since very high test scores were the only way to compensate for low suitability ratings. After 6 months, 12 out of the 15 officers in a class scored high enough on the test to receive a promotion. Though this was an important step forward for black policing, having more black officers didn't really reduce police violence. For example, in October 1968, Elijah Bennett was shot by a white police officer after he was verbally reprimanded for jaywalking in a predominantly black neighborhood in D.C. Furthermore, black officers weren't necessarily more sympathetic toward black citizens. A 1966 study by the University of Michigan looked at both white and black officers on duty, and though black officers weren't as prejudiced as white ones, 28% of them were still classified as prejudiced or highly prejudiced. One reason for the high percentage was class divisions. Officers tended to perceive poor black people as posing a risk to law and order in black communities. In some instances, that concern turned into overzealousness, which resulted in the use of excessive force for minor offenses, such as loitering and drunkenness. Sentences for drug crimes in D.C. underwent serious changes. From the late 1930s onward, received a minimum 1-year sentence, and a repeat offense would get you 10 years behind bars. But by the drug in the city anyway. So the city council passed new drug-related legislation in March 1981. David Clark, the chairman of the council's Judiciary Committee, proposed the categorization of drugs into groups with specific penalties. For instance, marijuana dealers would receive a maximum 1-year sentence, while cocaine and heroin dealers would get sentences of up to 5 and 10 years, respectively. Clark's suggestion was a response to contemporary public perception, which viewed the legal system as a revolving door that returned criminals to the streets. African-American council member John Ray opposed Clark's proposal with a stricter one, which sought to raise the maximum sentences even more, to 3, 10, and 15 years for marijuana, cocaine, and heroin dealing respectively. Ray also proposed mandatory minimum sentences for gun and drug offenses. The decision regarding maximum sentencing fell in Ray's favor. However, the council rejected his minimum sentencing proposal. Regardless, a ballot in January 1982 established mandatory minimum sentences for drug dealing. Initiative 9 mandated that anyone convicted of dealing heroin would get a minimum of 4 years in prison, while selling cocaine or marijuana would result in 2 years and 1 year in prison respectively. This initiative was strongly supported by Ray, along with Police Chief Bertell Jefferson, but opposed by a wide range of groups concerned with civil liberties. So Ray and Jefferson cleverly capitalized on the rage of DC citizens over the booming drug market. Some weeks prior to the vote for Initiative 9, Ray and Jefferson campaigned by visiting one murder scene after another, demonstrating to the public that crime was a huge problem in DC. On September 14, 1982, Initiative 9 won a landslide. Though the policy had no impact on crime reduction, drug-related prosecutions increased by nearly 300% between 1982 and 1984. The late 1980s crack epidemic resulted in warrior policing. By the late 1980s, the war on drugs was well and truly underway, and police were trained as though they were soldiers going into battle. Thus, they began to instinctively see young people from neighborhoods with high incidences of crime as potential enemies who could attack at a moment's notice. This new and highly aggressive form of law enforcement, referred to as warrior policing, was the antithesis of the U.S. Constitution's innocent until proven guilty amendment. To make themselves appear not guilty, the author's students had to constantly be mindful of their clothing, speech, and behavior. Once, when the author advised a student to go over his schoolwork during the commute to school, the student said it would be dangerous if he didn't remain vigilant to harassment or attacks. Warrior policing came about as a result of the crack cocaine epidemic. Crack cocaine is made by heating cocaine, baking soda, and water, and it creates an immediate and intense high that can be highly addictive. In 1984, 15% of people taken in by DC cops tested positive for cocaine. 3 years later, that percentage had grown to 60%, with nearly all of them having smoked crack. The black community, too, experienced the destructiveness of crack, with a representative from the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People claiming it was the worst thing to hit us since slavery. Due to a growing fear of the drug, many members of the black community were in favor of heavy-handed policing. Drug-related violence was up, and drug cartels and heavily armed street thugs were increasing in numbers, and the violence was far from evenly distributed. In 1989, 90% of homicide victims in Washington, D.C. were black. The stop and search tactic was more commonly used in black communities. By 1995, incidences of violence in D.C. had started to drop after peaking during the crack epidemic. However, homicide rates were still 3 times higher than in 1985. On January 13th of that year, Eric Holder, African-American U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., pointed out that 94% of black victims were murdered by another black person. As a solution to rising homicide rates, Holder came up with Operation Ceasefire, which made stop and search into official police policy. The program leveraged the city's numerous traffic regulations, which meant that the police had an excuse to stop almost any vehicle. This allowed them to search cars for illegal weapons to be confiscated. But most studies show that only 1 to 5% of the searches resulted in weapons being seized, meaning that a large proportion of innocent citizens were stopped for no justifiable reason. Another problem with Operation Ceasefire was that it disproportionately affected black neighborhoods. For example, it did not apply to the city's 2nd district, prosperous white neighborhoods, due to its low rate of gun violence. And because police officers would frequent black neighborhoods, black drivers were significantly more likely to be stopped by the police. These stops often resulted in arrests for crimes not even linked to guns, such as drug possession. This despite the fact that black drivers weren't more likely to possess drugs than white drivers. This variance didn't surprise Holder. He knew from the very beginning that young black men would be stopped more frequently, especially those in poor areas. And this is exactly what happened. Between 1996 and 1997, sociologist Ronald Weitzer found that people living in lower-class black areas were 4 to 7 times more likely to report pretextual stops and police abuse than those living in middle-class black areas. The stop and search tactic was just another component of the war on drugs that only increased the imprisonment of black people. Final summary. The key message in this book. Legislation enacted as part of the war on drugs in Washington, D.C., such as warrior policing and stop and search tactics, resulted in higher rates of police violence and incarceration rates that disproportionately affected black people. Even more surprising, the black community itself appealed for stricter penalties for many crimes. But policy changes and new laws since the mid-1970s have not only failed to reduce crime rates, they've also helped to marginalize black people further. Suggested further reading. Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. Stamped from the Beginning from 2016 offers a powerful examination of the modern history of racism in the United States, including where racist ideas originate and how they spread. In particular, the author looks closely at how the presidential campaigns and administrations of Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and Bill Clinton have helped propagate racist thought and had the detrimental impact on America's black communities. Yeah, I wonder what it's... whatever. It's probably fine. I mean, judging by... yeah, it's probably fine. A couple fragments. I'm not gonna sweat it. So, that being done, let's do the thing. One day. How far along are we, you know? Still at the really beginning. was a little smarter. I'll try to be gentle with myself. But I feel I've got to do more. Not really giving it my best yet, and it's like, what the fuck am I waiting for, you know? So I have to make the time. Weird how it skipped at the beginning. I wonder if it continued skipping. I guess we'll see. Whoops. So there could be some stuff that's just like totally broken. And that's okay. That's okay. Right now I'm more curious to find out. Alright, if I put some time into this, maybe I can find something out. Okay, let's do this first. Open, do this thing, run the thing. How do you get caught up when you're this far behind? Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. First, before I go and actually, let me do one more, just because I'm already here. So, what I need to find out: how effective has this been? How effective has this strategy been to date? There's actually been a lot of data, but it's been locked away I haven't been able to glean any insight from it yet. So, let's see what I can do. In the last 28, it counts for something. But at the same time, I wouldn't say that these are particularly strong. I can't even swarp that. That's kind of rough. Seconds. Well, that doesn't even count. What about this metric? That's really interesting. Really interesting. Can I filter by? Nope. Can't do that. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. You can export the current view to what? Oh, that's cool. These are worth something. They're definitely worth something. That's interesting. How are people finding this then? Let's say we were just looking at this one. External, what includes Google search. Okay, go figure. That's cool. the key takeaway, I think, is that doing this is better than not doing this. Like, I should constantly be pushing stuff. To stop up the content is a bad move. Period. It should be really, really obvious. I'm gonna get some water and see how I can use this remaining time. How much I can get done. Oops, gotta put up my be right back screen. Whatever. So, alright. I'm gonna put like 15 minutes into this and see what I can do. I'd really, really like to get things to a point where it's just like, as soon as it's done, it's up, scheduled. I don't like that right now. I'm so far behind where I'd like to be. If I do this, let's say I take, where's the classification? Let's not look at the full broadcasts for a moment. And if we look here, the last thing I have pushed out is, okay, that's really weird. Oh, okay, it's gotta be because some numbers over here. Alright, it's because that's dynamically updating. It's these two conversations here that I'm too sure about. This timestamp I'm not too sure about. These I'm not too sure about. So instead, let's just look at this piece. This is right around the new year, and will it be interesting? Maybe. I don't know. Yo, what the fuck? You gotta be kidding me. What the fuck? Why is that not there? Why is that not there? How is that? What about this piece? Oh God. I'm having, okay, well, that's weird. This one's here, but the other one wasn't. For some reason. This piece that I'm pretty fucking confident I highlighted, it wasn't there. Okay, cool. I have no idea what account that would have been. Okay, this is really strange. Wow, yeah, okay, I never punched that into the system, so let's fix that now. That should work. It didn't. Oh, no wonder. Okay. I understand now. That's so funny. So let's see how long it takes to do this. From scratch. This is like the worst case scenario here. 2016. I don't think that really matters, but excuse me. No, it's not even there. Wonderful. Okay, so this is like a really, really bad one to try to throw together right now, but I'm still gonna go with it. Partly because I can, you know. And I don't even know what the other thing is, but it's fine. I'm gonna roll with it. And we'll schedule it out too. I could do it proper. Alright, let's just do the thing. Okay, that's why. That's why this never showed. It failed to do it in time. And it's just been stuck. Which is really unfortunate. Really fucking unfortunate. Sometimes that's just what happens. That's how the cookie crumbles. I'm curious about some more things here, like this one, for example. Okay, so these emails I should be receiving here, and this guy, for example, advanced education. Yeah, we'll figure all this shit out. Right now, I have no idea. I'm looking at this all and just, I don't know. I mean, what do I do with this? Take a look at this guy. Replace this and see what we're working with now. It should show me something. I may want to start looking into that. Let's do this. Yeti eaters. Okay. Get rid of that one, get rid of that one. Set this to education. In fact, some of this stuff I should be able to I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know how important a lot of this stuff is. Can't even type that in, have to look down this entire list. Okay, that's interesting. Let's go ahead and throw this in here too. Just put that there, that little bit of information. And say save. Hey. Save. And schedule it for morning and say good, and I don't know, just fucking get back on it again. I'm tired of things being so far off. It's not doing anyone any favors. This one's a pretty bad example of my system. It's like really bad. Okay, here I'm missing some stuff too. I did it deliberately. I hid stuff. Alright, so it's fine. Let's move on to a second one. At least one more. Doing this, and this, and this. Could not load Vita. Wow, the lack of organization. Fuck, I've lost a lot of stuff. That's really frustrating. This one at least should be here. It's frustrating to see just how many holes there have been in my process. Disappointing. See if this one's fucked too. Yay, this one wasn't fucked. Oh, he's not totally fucked. Yeah, alright, some fucked. Slowly but surely, things will improve. To get over these little bumps. It means dealing with this stuff on a regular basis. Not allowing it to sit and rot. Okay, so that should help things out a little bit. Confirmed, yes. Looks better. Only pull this and throw that down. That I like. I like some of what I've done. I'm not happy with a lot of what I've done. But fuck my life. I just close out the thing. Go back. That's flaky as shit. So get in the habit of writing these things out directly. I think that Twitch actually took away some of the analytics tools that I liked. Remember something a long time ago. I was playing with it. One reason to leverage. There we go. Let's push that out. Hit the email soon. We should set up like another filter over here. Just so that these things can all get thrown on a list and scheduled out. Let's see what else I can see here. Okay, well that helps a lot. Cool. Alright, yeah, it's pretty slick. I feel like I've known about this, but it's good to relearn sometimes. Copyright claim. So, key takeaways, this stuff takes quite a bit of time to do. And this is before you get to any of the promotion of it. This is just scheduling stuff out. So scheduling posts out, I can understand why folks are willing to pay good money for it. And granted, I'm not working with, I don't know, I could do a better job. I need to be doing a better job with this, really. But this is pretty clean. Yeah, that's what I wanted. At least small wins. Gotta celebrate the small wins. Is this stuff already out there? No way. Yeah, there's no fucking way. There's no way. A lot of this shit's not out there. It's just been sitting and rotting. There's a... How many pieces is this? It's a lot. It's a lot of them. Alright. What do I want to attack? To get caught up, I have 71 by this count, and that's only up until the end of February. We're already two and a half weeks into March. A lot of it's stuff that I can just let go on autopilot, so I won't even worry about those. Not right now. Just gotta keep on moving with it. On the regular. Also, something very strange. No wonder. No wonder. That's awful. No wonder. Okay. Fuck. Wow. Terrible time to figure this out. I'm gonna have to manually punch some stuff in. It's better that I figure this out now than later, though. It's fine. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it. Fucking piece of shit. Fucking technology, I swear. 1, 2, 3, 4. Jesus, that really left me boned for a while. Hey, Jesus, that was, I don't even know when that was. I have no idea when. Fucking piece of shit. Alright, so neither one of these actually look at today's stuff then. It's a pain in the ass. I know there's fuck me. Fuck, I'm frustrated. This is, it's really unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. Man, one last look at the things. Let me see just how fucked everything is. Okay. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna have to spend some more time with this shit. Like, that's the one abundantly clear thing. Fuck. Okay. Just make notes on this. This is an out time. And this is in. Okay. And we'll figure out the other stuff later. It's really fucking annoying. And is this guy still not working? Fuck you. Cool. Alright, and still showing connecting. Why though? Fucking piece of garbage. I hate technology. I fucking hate technology. And now it just says offline. Connecting. Piece of shit. Piece of shit. Whatever. Right now, this is just a headache. And it's, I gotta go call it a night anyways. So it's just as well. There's a lot of stuff to figure out. Plus, my laundry is all over my bed, which means I have more stuff to do before I can sleep. But I'm going to take care of that off cam. Fuck. Alright. So, where that leaves us tonight. Clearly everything is still a mess. Eventually it'll get better. You know, I gotta go through the motions. It's gonna hurt a bit. So, for now, it's just like, okay, suck it up. You're at least I figured out some of the really basic stuff, and it's still the fucking like the most fundamental bits we're working with right now. Like, nothing is working. Nothing is working, but it's the start of something. So it's better than it's a little better than nothing. I gotta give myself a little bit of credit, not too much. A lot of work remaining to be done. Catch up with you later. For now, take care. Until next time. Bye-bye.